Welcome to Enlightenment of Change on webtalkradio.net. I'm your host, Connie Whitman. As always, thanks for joining us this week. So every week as you listen to the show, I really hope that you feel my passion about change, right? Change is hard. I get it. And my guests and I really hope that we provide some tips, tools, strategies, ideas that you can apply immediately to help you navigate change, to help you on your journey of change. I have just started a new all-star community, and it's a membership site where I would love to have you come and play with me live. And the link is in the show notes. So please come check it out. If it's a good fit for you, come and play. I'd love to have you. Now, my motivational quote today is by Leonardo DiCaprio. And Leonardo says, "If you can do what you do best and be happy, you're further along in life than most people." So as I was searching for the quote, that I wanted to use today, this one really jumped out at me. In my experience and working with clients, I find many approach happiness as a result, something that you get when you reach a goal or a milestone. So for example, I've heard many people say things to me like, well, I'll be happy when I get my promotion, or I'll be happy as soon as I get more business, or I'll be happy when I could stop working. And the list goes on. And I'm sure as I'm saying these, you're thinking to yourself, oh, I say I'll be happy when, and then fill in the blank for yourself. Now, these type of comments always cause me to actually pause and think about why us humans that we need X to happen before we can move or think that we should feel happy. For me, happiness is an inside game. And I will say, absolutely, at times it can be challenging. So I have an amazing guest today, Rebecca Morrison. Now, Rebecca is here to share with you that happiness isn't a result. It's an everyday investment, and it's one of the highest value investments that you can actually make in your life and in your career. So what do you do when you've achieved your goals and you still don't feel happy? Well, even though Rebecca, I'm going to call her Becky, was a happily married mom and lawyer with 2-decade career in big law and finance, she felt something was missing. That feeling led her on a quest to figure out whether it was possible to have both success and happiness. And now a happiness coach and author of The Happiness Recipe, a powerful guide living what matters. Rebecca helps successful but unsatisfied high achievers find their happiness recipe so they can live happier, lead happier, and build happier businesses and lives. Rebecca is a graduate of the Wellesley College and Georgetown Law. She is also a UC Berkeley executive coach, Coaching Institute certified exec. I hope I said that right, Beck. I'm going to have you correct me if I was wrong. Please help me welcome the amazing Becky to the show. So Bex, thanks for being on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here, Connie. I really am looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, me too, because talk about like law to happiness. I know people are going, say what, right?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much.
Did I get that right? I wanted to give your credentials correct. UC Berkeley Executive Coaching Institute.
Yeah, so they have a executive coaching institute loosely affiliated with Haas Business School at UC Berkeley that offers an executive coaching certification, and that is where I got certified back in 2020, early 2020.
Yeah, what's happened when COVID hit? You go and get certified, or you write a book, right?
Well, I mean, so I'm the person who my certification, I think I finished all of my certification requirements. So all of the coaching hours required to get the certification in February of 2020. So I actually was on this boat before COVID hit, but I did write a book. So there you go.
See, I'm telling you, it's what I did too. I tease when I speak. I say, COVID hit at business owners. What did you do? You wrote a book.
Yeah.
You know why? Because we actually had time to sit and write a book or edit a book, et cetera. So funny. All right. So the first question, I'm asking is, how the heck did you go from lawyer to happiness coach? I love it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and if you had told me, so I graduated from law school actually 20 years ago this month. And if you had told me at that graduation, like, hey, 2 decades from now, you're not going to be a practicing attorney anymore, you're going to be a happiness coach, I would have said, yeah, okay, sure. That doesn't make any sense. What are you smoking? Right. But here I am. And the story, I mean, I could start the story at a variety of places in my life, but I'll start it here. About 16 years ago, I had graduated from law school at this point. I'm several years into working as an associate at a big law firm. I'm in litigation, so working to represent clients in trial or other administrative proceedings. And I found myself one night on the floor of the bathroom. And at the time, my husband, he's still my husband, but at the time he was working in counterterrorism. And literally something had blown up in the world and he had been called into work. So I found myself at home with my toddler, doing two things at the same time, sitting on the floor of the bathroom with her in the tub and the cordless phone clipped to the back of my pants and the toilet seat cover closed and my notebook on the toilet seat cover and paper spread all around me. And I was bathing her and actively participating in a call with our expert witnesses to prepare them for some upcoming testimony. And sort of as that moment concluded, I had two thoughts in really quick succession. My first thought was like, who says you can't do it all? Like I'm here, I'm a mom, I'm having a lot of success at work. Like I got the great job, I'm on partnership track, I'm making good money. Like I'm killing it, right? And then the next thought was something like, and I'm exhausted, and this is unsustainable. And I'm not even sure if, although I'm good at being a lawyer, if it is making me happy, if I am enjoying it, if I want to do this, if this is really what's most important to me. And so that was the beginning of a conversation with myself around, what is actually my top priority? What actually matters to me? How do I want to define success? And then from there, a 16-year career journey leads me to this place where I decide to go out and help others. And I didn't do that with an eye towards becoming a happiness coach. I didn't go to Berkeley thinking I would coach in this space. I thought I was actually going to take leadership back into law firms, leadership and management and communication. But found myself gravitating towards untangling exactly the thing that I had spent a lifetime career or, 16, what would it be, 18 plus year career untangling. And this is where I landed. So, yeah.
It's funny, and I'm picturing the bathroom, like multitasking, husband's gone, kids in the bath, papers, you're talking like, yeah, I'm Superwoman, right? I wear an S under my shirt. So I could picture that. It's interesting because I think sometimes we get into that role that just do, keep going. We don't pause to have that thought of, wow, I've got it all. And then, am I really happy? So it's kind of funny, divine intervention, call it what you will. But at that moment, for you to hear your own thought and think, wait, I have to rethink this. And that was the catalyst. We percolate. And then all of a sudden you're like, yeah, this isn't working for me. Right. So yeah. I give you a lot of credit. I really give you a lot of credit.
Yeah. And I would love to say that I had that thought and then I got about the doing and changing and investigating. No. And, I tell a couple more stories that I won't tell here in my book. There were a couple other really big things that happened kind of subsequent to that moment that were like the 2x4 over the head. Like, you need to pay attention. You need to wake up. You only get to do this once. And how do you want to do it? So.
And here's the thing for everybody listening today too, Bex, right? We're in life, man, and we're running and we're going, and to stop and really think about what do I really want? Like the 2x4, right? I think we have the 2x4 hit us before we think, oh, I think I better listen now, because we're on this trajectory, the hamster wheel, right? We're on the trajectory of, I can't get off the hamster wheel because I have bills to pay. The kids need me. I have this, they have soccer practice, they have hockey practice, whatever it is, that we don't have those moments of clarity, because how can we when we're a blur ourselves, right, in life?
Yes.
So yeah, yes. It's the 2x4. I think everybody, I resonate with that. So I'm sure my listeners are thinking, oh yeah, amen, sister. I wait for that 2x4 to hit me too, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, like if you think about it, in some ways, the last 2 years or COVID or the pandemic or whatever else happened to us during that period, for many people has been a 2x4. For many people has been a real wake up call of like, whoa, in some cases, because things slowed down with our businesses or with our lives, just naturally, like activities went off of the table, we had more time. And all of a sudden we were forced, to listen to what we were saying inside. And it really is. I mean, we're seeing it, people talk about the great resignation, or I like to think about it as the
The Great Awakening.
Well, I call it the great reprioritization.
Yeah.
I have a friend who calls it the great level up. Like she looks at it as an opportunity for everyone to be thinking about, how to improve where they're sitting today. I like all of those. But I think it's very real. And it is sort of like this global 2x4 that just whacked all of us all at once.
Yeah. And I think it's because we were forced, the whole world. Like it wasn't just you and I or me in
Yes.
Jersey. And where were you located again?
I'm in Northern Virginia.
Northern Virginia. So it wasn't like Northern Virginia and Middletown, New Jersey. Yes, that's where we're going to hit them with the 2x4. It was like the whole world stopped. So
Yes.
it was a good lesson. It was scary, right? Because
Yes.
we were losing lives, which was just,
Yes.
it was, we didn't know, right? We didn't know if the human race was going to survive, but it forced us. My husband said we were put on a permanent timeout. Like Mother Nature put us on a permanent timeout.
Sit down.
We're all sent to our room, right? I love it. I love it. Yeah, we could talk about that another day, but I want to jump back to the happiness thing, because this is so crucial, I think, to the future really of humanity. Forget about the human race, right? What do you say though, when people tell you, right? Because remember, law to happiness coach. What do you say when people go, oh, happiness? Yeah, it's all that fluff, it's all nonsense. How do you respond?
I mean, I get it. My first response when people say that is like, yeah, I used to think that too, if I'm being totally honest, right? I used to sort of have bought into the traditional notion, and you said it in the intro, that happiness comes when? That happiness is a result. And mostly that happiness is a result of our circumstances. Yeah. Oftentimes when we say that statement of like, I'll be happy when I have the dollars in my bank account or on my paycheck. I'll be happy when I have the job title. I'll be happy when I have the new house. I'll be happy when I have the number on the scale. You know what I mean? It's all these circumstantial things. Yeah. And as I dug into the research around happiness, my mind was a little bit blown on a couple levels. The first important level is that the research actually says that our circumstances are only responsible for 10% of our happiness. Huh. So here we are running around tying our happiness to all these circumstances. And the reason that the circumstances typically are only responsible for 10% of our happiness is this phenomenon called hedonic adaptation, which in really simple terms means that we as humans adapt very quickly to especially new pleasurable circumstances. So when I get that new job, I get excited about it. It feels good. I have a boost. And then I'm in it and I'm adapted to it. And I'm no longer riding the wave of the boost that came, because I'm there and I'm just doing. Yeah. Makes perfect sense when you think about it that way, but we don't walk through life as if that is the case. So that's number one important piece. The other important piece is that 40% of our happiness comes from our daily actions and thoughts. 40%. And that is a lever that we control, we can pull, we can tweak. And so I get really excited when I think about happiness now, because it's not a circumstantial result that we get. It's something, like you said, that we are doing every day. And this is where the research is really exciting, because what the research tells us in the happiness space is when we are living happy, meaning we are having more positive emotional experiences on balance than negative ones, like overall, right? Because the reality is life is a roller coaster and you're going to have both. A number of things happen. There are a number of outcomes. We're healthier. We are better able to make connections and relationships. We are more successful. We make more money. We're more productive. We live longer. I mean, all of the things that we're looking for come out of living happier. They can be a side effect of happiness. All of the results we want aren't happiness. They're the side effects of happiness. And so when I look at it from the perspective of like, you want to put it in pure economic terms, happiness or living happy is one of the highest value investments we can make in ourselves, in our lives, in our careers, in our families. Because a couple other important research points. Number one, when you're happier, the people around you live happier. Yeah. So it's got this awesome ripple effect. Oh, yeah. Number two, just in the moment of having a positive emotional experience, two important things happen. One, we broaden our perspective on the world. We're more creative. We're better equipped to solve problems. Our executive functioning improves. And number two, and this is a really exciting one for me, I'll oversimplify and say we make deposits in our resilience piggy bank. So just by having a positive emotional experience, we are building up our stores of emotional energy so that we can better weather the tough stuff that life will throw our way. Yeah. So it's like, wow, please tell me why I wouldn't want to be looking for opportunities to have more positive emotional experiences in my life. And the last thing I'll say, because I've just said a lot, is when I talk about positive emotional experiences, I want to be super, super clear. I don't mean fake ones. I don't mean pretend you're happy when you're not, or ignore the feelings that are more difficult. I'm talking about genuinely felt positive emotion. And what I find with my clients is we have a lot of like very strong negative things that we experience and very strong positive things. And then we have this untapped middle, this like day-to-day walk through life where we're not being intentional to notice how we can extract emotions or how we can experience emotions during that time. And if we can tap into that messy middle, that's where we can get some real gains in terms of positive emotions. So now I'll take a breath.
Yeah, you're my kind of gal. She talks fast and she includes a lot, right? Yeah. I love it. So a couple of things. I want to just unpack that for my own understanding, right? So the 10% based on circumstance are right there, baby. We can't wait for the next thing that's going to make us happy. We truly have to be happy right here, right now. And that's through mindset and all those other things. Like you said, trying to remember and find the joy in the little moments, right? Silly little moments. But now, so that's 50%. The other 50% of, so
you're like, where's the rest of the pie? Yeah.
Yeah. So what about the other half of the pie? Is that a remnant from that 40% if we can shift our mindset, or is there other stats in there?
The remaining 50%, what this body of research suggests is actually related to our genetic happiness set point. Our natural genetic predisposition, or epigenetic, I should say, predisposition to happiness. And so there's not a lot, without getting into a ton of detail and a ton of science, you can have some influence. So I don't know how much, how deep to go into epigenetics, but it's the whole notion that your behavior unlocks your genes, right? And so there's like this feedback loop from that 40% of intentional behavior and actions that can impact that happiness set point that you come with. But some of it just is like, you're just naturally predisposed to be a certain way or to have certain chemical conditions in your body and your brain. Cool. So all we can do is work with the areas that we can influence. But when we work with those areas that we can influence, we are also impacting which genes are turned on.
Yep. I love it. So it's funny because my whole life I am my glass is always half full.
Yes.
Just how I approach life. And so I'll share a funny story. My mom, when I was born, she had phlebitis, right? So it's just a blood clot in her leg, and she's had it. She's now 93. It did not kill her. So yes, people, I did not kill my mother. Knock on wood for that one. But anyway, she had phlebitis her whole leg, and she wasn't supposed to. We have the pull down in my mom and dad's house for to go get Christmas decorations in the attic, etc. So she's not supposed to go on that because of the phlebitis leg. It's heavy for her. Well, of course, she doesn't listen. And she went up 2 or 3 steps to grab it from my dad coming down, falls and breaks her ankle. So they call me, mom broke her foot or her ankle. And I'm like, oh, my first question, which leg? Her right leg. And I'm like, oh, thank goodness it wasn't the phlebitis leg. It would take longer to heal. Glass half full, right?
Yes.
And my mom laughed at me. She goes, of course you found the silver lining, right? but I get it. That's how I'm wired. But I have a lot of people who, in my own orbit, right, my clients, et cetera, their glass is half empty. So that's that epigenetic kind of how you're wired. That 40%, we can minimize that glass half empty, if I'm understanding this correctly. And for me, with the glass half full, mine could be overflowing then.
Yes.
Did I understand?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's right. Like, so, I mean, happiness is all a relative experience too, right? Like it's not about living happier and we're all hitting some level. It's about whatever living happier means for you. Correct. And I use, happiness as like this catch-all word for all positive emotions, but I also want to remind people that there's you can pull up a list of emotions or like a vibrational scale of emotions, and there's probably 25 emotions that live above neutral. And so it's not just about hitting joy every time, right? It's like contentment, engagement, interest, curiosity. Like there's all of these things on that scale that are south of joy, but north of the ground. You know what I mean? And it's about, you can play in all of the happy emotions. And so, if somebody's listening and thinking like, I'm just not somebody who's like at the joy. Well, okay. I want to dig into that a little bit. And I want to first know, well, how would you define joy? What is the most joyful or close to joyful you've ever felt? That might be your max or your current max, and that's fine. But let's play in that space and explore it and see what we can do to shift it. And I mean, some of the glass half empty, half full notion is probably your wiring, and some of it is probably habit.
Yeah.
And so let's play with to what extent can we shift it? To what extent can we move the needle on that, or change the way that you're viewing the world, or change the lens through which you're viewing the world?
So it doesn't have to be an all or nothing, right? It could be muscles, right? Like use those brain muscles, those emotional muscles, whatever. And the more that you notice those happy little moments, like you didn't hit traffic in the morning, right? Or for some reason that cup of coffee just hit the spot in the morning. Yes. Right. They're little pieces of happiness, joy, contentment. I love that word, contentment, of satisfaction. Like, yes. Oh, that was really good. So it doesn't have to be this off the charts, I am a joyous human all the time, because that's crap. You can't be, right? I don't believe you can be. Maybe I'm wrong with the statistics. I'll let you answer that. But I think that's what you're saying. We can flex those muscles to find those little moments of contentment, satisfaction, happiness, joy, whatever, however you want to phrase it, right?
Yeah. And there's a way to sort of back into it. So one of the exercises that I like to do with people kind of early on in our work together, and with groups sometimes, is to develop a menu. I call it your joy menu, but it's really a menu of all the things that fall in that happy space. And there's an added step that I add. So I could ask you, like, what has made you smile, or what brings you joy, or what brings you a positive emotion? And you'd come up with a list. And it might be small things like, your cup of coffee, and it might be big things like vacation. But what I like to do is to take those things and like really try to like drill down and find out what's at the heart, what's at the essence of them. Like, what is it about that cup of coffee that brings you joy? Is it the moment? Is it that you're in the moment? Is it the taste? Is it the heat? Like, what is it? And let's notice it. And like taking the the larger example of vacation, what is it about vacation? Like, let's get it down to its building blocks, because the building blocks, you can't take vacation every day, maybe, but you can take those building blocks and inject them into your life. So like one example I hear a lot is like, I have 2 dogs. And so people say, I love being with my pet. And I'm like, great. How many times a day do you interact with your pet? And I'll just speak for myself. I mean, I have 2 dogs. I work from home. They're with me all day. I have to let them out 5 or 6 times a day. I'm feeding them twice. You know what I mean? There's like all this time spent doing care for my pet. Sure. How much of that time am I also thinking about the joy that they bring me? Am I also choosing, like, if I take them out, am I on my phone looking at my next appointment, or am I watching them play in the yard and be total goofballs because they're golden retrievers and they're always doing something absolutely ridiculous? And so like, it is about remembering that you can pull, like, once you know what it is, you can go looking for it. It's probably already there in your day. It's just a matter of identifying it and then savoring it.
And then again, just practice noticing those moments, right, can increase, and I'm going to just say, the happiness meter, right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. What are the biggest pitfalls or misconceptions that you see people, like, they come to you because you coach on this, that they say, oh, I can't because, or, oh, that won't work for me because, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, so like, it's interesting how, and it's interesting how we will have this resistance to believing that a small change can have a big impact.
Yeah.
And so people will come to me and say, like, I'm unhappy and I need to shift something. And often it is, I'm unhappy and I need a whole new career. Like, I need a whole new job. And the reality is, you might need a whole new career or a whole new job. But there's going to be some things when we work together that we do first. And the first thing we're going to try to do is figure out how you can be as happy as you are where you are. The second thing we're going to try to do in kind of tandem with that is really get clear on where you actually are before we try to go somewhere else. And, there's a research, there's an exercise that has got some amazing research on it. And it is this. It is recording what made you smile for 21 days, not doing a full-blown gratitude list, just recording one thing that made you smile for 21 days. One thing. And I just was trying to look for my notes because I don't remember all the specifics, but I mean, it's got like incredible increases in engagement, incredible increases in, and I mean, like, engagement in life, engagement in the work you're doing, even if it's not the ideal work for you, incredible increases in happiness, incredible increases in gratitude. And then it also, literally, they have been able to measure that it rewires the way that your brain thinks about the world. So it's actually creating new neural pathways, this very small exercise. But when I say it to people, they're like, yeah, I mean, I guess I'll do that, but like, that doesn't seem big enough. It's like, we have this notion that in order to fix, it has to be big change.
Yeah.
And so just getting people used to the idea that we can make little shifts that will radically change your trajectory. And then really my goal in doing those two things first, you know, getting you happy where you are and figuring out where you really are, is so that instead of running away from what you perceive as your unhappiness, we're actually building happiness. And that energetic difference, that framework difference, the result difference in approaching it that way is monumental. I mean,
well, but also, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but what I was going to say, because as your thoughts change, and you said you can change the neural pathways, the opportunities now will show up that you really do want, right? Because you're shifting your focus. What we think becomes our reality, right? Yep. All of those things that we know are the universal laws. So that's the one piece of it. The other one I just wanted to comment on: people come to you and say, I hate my job. I need a new job. I need a whole new career. And I think when they come to you and you start working with them, again, it's that 10%. If I change my circumstance, well, then I'll be happy. It goes back to what we started on the onset of this conversation. So do they really need to change careers? Maybe that might be the outcome, but maybe they don't. And they were just missing the joy within that career, that job, whatever it might be, that company, because they were always looking at the negative and never seeing the positive anymore. Like the joy you said, you know, when you start a new job, you're all hyped up, right? The endorphins are raging. And then we kind of settle in and it's like, oh, this sucks. It's boring. So I think that's that piece of that 10%. I need a new career. We want to jump to that 10% because that's what we're taught, I think.
Yes. Well, and we're in a hurry. I mean, like, we're in a rush. Nobody wants to stay where it's uncomfortable. Nobody wants to stay where it doesn't feel good. We are naturally sort of wired to seek out feeling good. And so there's this like, let me get out of here, right? But I've just watched it time and time again with the people that I work with, when we can kind of actually settle into where we are now and relieve some of the, I don't want to call it artificial discomfort because it's real, but the discomfort that we can control, let's call it that. When we can influence some of the discomfort, then it's like, oh, okay. Yeah. So I actually can be here and like take my time to figure out where I need to go. The other thing, I mean, it again, this comes straight from the research, is by having like injecting more positive emotions into your day. Remember, you're giving yourself more mental capacity, wider lens on the world, more creativity. And so like, I'll be the first to admit, you know, I told you that story about that bathtub moment. Do you want to know what I ultimately did after I got hit by the 2x4? I radically changed my job like this because I thought that was going to solve it. I got lucky. I landed in a great place that did in the long term solve it, but that's not always how it works. Yeah. And so now I look back and I say, well, I would have really actually benefited from taking a pause, getting really clear on what mattered most to me and what I needed to let go of, getting really clear on the boundaries I needed to set, and then exploring where I could land, that I could set those boundaries and I could have those things. And I didn't do that. And I mean, I don't regret, because my path led me to exactly where I'm supposed to be today. Right. But I just, that was your journey. Yes. I just offer that as an example to sort of say, like, I see the difference when I watch a client, you know, take the time to do that little pause up front and then build the real vision of the life they want in this season of their lives. I mean, it always arrives. And it's funny, the episode that I listened to you, that we were just talking about before we got on to record, you talked about this notion of like, we put it out there and then we take action and then it shows up. And time again, clients are like, what? We just talked about this and I just got this call about this perfect opportunity. I'm like, yeah, I'm not surprised. I'm not at all surprised.
Yeah. Because we free up our space, our energetic space too, to allow other things to come in, because we're not all jammed up, right?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. Love it. All right. My last question, because literally we're out of time, but so we talked about success and happiness, and I know everybody's thinking, oh, happiness. Yeah. Frou. There you go, Connie, that woo. How do you suggest people untangle that notion of happiness, right? Yeah. From all of the definitions of success that we've been taught? So how do we kind of get the happiness, because then the success follows? What are some of your strategies, or what would be a tip you could give?
So just because we're like right at the end here, I want to give a tip. And the tip is actually just a question to ask yourself. And the question is this: what if I got to write my own definition of success? And I say it that way deliberately because a lot of people resist the notion that we can do it. And I just want you to put aside what you think, put aside what you've been told, put aside, and just, what if I got to write my own definition of success? What would it say? And see what comes up for you. And it might surprise you what arrives when you really think about what success means to you. And I know that sounds maybe like a too simple activity, but we don't spend a lot of time in thought about that. And often what happens when we think about it, if we aren't in that what if playful space, we think about, well, I just can't. And all those mindset blocks come up and all that history and all that nervous system. And so I'm not asking you to write yourself a new definition of success. I'm just saying, what if you could? What would it say? Like, play with it, make it real light and playful. The other way to think about it is to put yourself at some point in the future, let's call it 3 months down the road, and ask yourself what you want to feel and see what comes up, because that's going to give you some interesting clues to what success really means to you.
You're giggling inside. I loved you the first time I met you, that we chatted, but I'm giggling because here's the other reality, right? Is that law school, the way your brain works, right? You chose law for a reason. All of that, like you just shared a ton of research. What do lawyers often do before a case, especially litigation? Do research, right? How can we connect how can we use what was prior, right, proven already, to fast track whatever the litigation or the trial is? So all of those skills, I'm giggling because even though you're not practicing law, you're doing maybe even more important work. I don't know about that, but for you, perhaps maybe more important work, because you're using all of those tangible skills that you honed and developed at a young age, but they're serving you big time right now and serving your clients, right?
Yeah, no, I think so. I mean, I think I see a lot of things that I learned in law school and as a lawyer that are benefiting me as a coach. And that's one great example. The only difference I would say is I did it backwards this time. I first sort of marshaled what I already knew to be true.
Yeah.
And kind of, that's what this book is. And then I was like, for this to be taken seriously, I'm going to have to go back and figure out why it's true, or like how I know it's true, because I just knew it. But I was right, not because it's all there in the research. And so I kind of actually did it the way that they tell you to write a brief that I never did. I always researched and then wrote, but this time I wrote and then I researched and adjusted where I needed to.
I love it. I love it. So see, we're constantly evolving. That's the other thing. So to think, well, it's just the way it is. I hear all the time too, well, I don't have a choice. And my response is always, and I've shared this before on the show, so I know people are like, yeah, we know, Connie, but the reality is when you say, I don't have a choice, you're still making a choice. You're choosing not to do something, but that is your choice to make. We have free will. So 90% of the time, I think we do have choice. There are times where we don't. I understand that, right? The situation is the situation and we have to respond to it. But I think when we act proactively, that we can control more than we think we can.
Well, and I mean, just to tie it all back in a neat little bow, when it comes to happiness, right? The one thing that we can always choose is how we show up.
Yeah.
How we behave and what we think. And that's why this is so fun to me, because that 40% that we talked about is that it's all within our control. All of it.
That's powerful. That's powerful.
Yeah.
We don't have to have the tail wag the dog anymore. We can be the dog and wag our own tail, right? We
Absolutely.
take control. I love it. So everyone, I know you need more Becks in your life, Becky in your life. So go to untanglehappiness.com website. If you have a specific question for Becky that you'd like her to kind of answer, go to becky@untanglehappiness.com. And we're going to put a free gift, 5-day happiness jumpstart. I'm going to put it in the link. Can you tell everybody what that is?
So it is really just a 5-day quick and dirty compilation of some of my happiness hits. There might be one that you've already heard in there, but there's a whole bunch of new content too. And it's really designed to be like no more than 15 minutes a day with easy implementable things that you can do right now to increase your happiness.
I signed up too. So come and play, guys. Come and play. We could play together. I signed up. So Lori, I'm in Becky's world now. She's stuck with me. I want to also repeat, because we are in the summer, people are on vacations, and I know we bring books with us to the beach or, wherever we go, that we get to slow down just a smidge with the summer coming and kids off from school and all of that. So the book, Becky's book, is The Happiness Recipe, a powerful guide to living what matters. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So buy it, read it, and report back. We want to hear your transformation over the summer. And again, do the jump start. Let's have some fun with that. And, I might do some posts on that too, Becky, on LinkedIn, or maybe I'll write an article about the show and then what I've implemented doing the 5-day jump start, and see what resonates for people. So tune in. And if you're not on LinkedIn or Facebook, join me, because I will post some comments on that. So yeah, thank you. I love it. I loved all the tips, and I can't wait to do the jump start. I'm so excited.
Awesome. Thank you again for having me.
I love having you. You're amazing. And I love all the research. I'm a numbers person. So as soon as you were talking about, notice I said, what about the other 50%?
I was waiting. I was like, is she going to do the math? Yeah.
I'm a numbers gal. It's where I
like
go.
It.
Right?
I like it.
Becky, thank you. Your mind is brilliant and your heart is full. And I so appreciate everything you shared today. I learned so much, and I hope everybody listening did as well. And I hope you guys will tune in weekly as we question, build, and discover together. Change is okay. And maybe we can embrace it a little bit easier, having guests like Becky share some of her wonderful tips and strategies and jump starts, these free resources for us to kind of dig into to help us on our journey of change. So Becky, once again, thank you so much. Truly a fun episode. I really enjoyed this. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And you have been listening to Enlightenment of Change with me, your host, Connie Whitman, on webtalkradio.net. Have a wonderful, inspired week, and I wish you true happiness from today forward. So everyone enjoy, and we'll see you next week. Thanks so much.